All right, Cubs, we're here on Monday morning to continue our reading of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. And I want us to take a moment to remember what happened on Friday, the last thing that we read. Harry and Neville and Hermione, they all got notes from from Professor McGonagall that they had detention, but starting at 11 o'clock tonight. So it had some of you asked you to make some predictions. We had a prediction that they were going to be honest, they were going to tell the truth, and then they were going to have detention. Somebody said they were going to clean the whole school. And pretty much almost everybody agreed, with the one exception, that no matter what, it's not going to stop Harry and Ron and Hermione from exploring the school and being sneaky, getting out after at night. They're still going to do that kind of stuff, even though they have gotten in trouble for it. One of you guys did say they weren't going to be sneaky anymore, but I suppose we will see if they will be sneaky. So let's continue. Let's read and see if they did have to clean the whole school or if maybe they got to not have detention. All right, I'm going to let you look at this picture of Professor McGonagall while I finish this page, and then I'll turn and there'll be another picture for us to look at. Harry had forgotten they still had detentions to do in the furor over the points they'd lost. He half expected Hermione to complain that this was a whole night of revision lost, but she didn't say a word. Like Harry, she felt they deserved what they got. At 11 o'clock that night, they said goodbye to Ron in the common room and went down to the entrance hall with Neville. Filch was already there, and so was Malfoy. Harry had also forgotten that Malfoy got detention too. "Follow me," said Filch, lighting a lamp and leading them outside. "I bet you think twice about breaking a school rule again, won't you, eh?" He continued, leering at them. I want you to pause and leer. What does a leer look like? It's probably kind of a creepy look, don't you think? "Oh, yes. Hard work and pain are the best teachers, if you ask me. It's just a pity they let the old punishments die out. Hang you by your wrists from the ceiling for a few days. I've got the chains in my office. Keep 'em well oiled in case they're ever needed. Right, off we go. And don't think of running off now. It'll be worse for you if you do." They marched off across the dark grounds. Neville kept sniffing. Harry wondered what their punishment was going to be. It must be something really horrible, or Filch wouldn't be sounding so delighted. The moon was bright, but the clouds scudding across it kept throwing them into darkness. Ooh, pause. But the clouds scudding across it kept throwing them into darkness. What does scudding mean? So the moon is bright, which means that they could see. But then it says the clouds scudding across kept throwing them into darkness. So that must mean if they're in darkness, even though the moon is bright, that must mean the moon is covered. So when clouds are scudding, that must mean they're somehow like scudding across. Must mean they're like moving in front of the moon to hide it, right? All right, let's keep going. Ahead, Harry could see the lighted windows of Hagrid's hut. Then they heard a distant shout. "Is that you, Filch? Hurry up. I want to get started." Harry's heart rose. If they were going to be working with Hagrid, it wouldn't be so bad. His relief must have showed in his face because Filch said, "I suppose you think you'll be enjoying yourself with that oaf. Well, think again, boy. It's into the forest you're going, and I'm much mistaken if you all come out in one piece." At this, Neville let out a little moan, and Malfoy stopped dead in his tracks. "The forest," he repeated. Oh, but he didn't sound quite as cool as usual. Oh, so I've got to read that again. "The forest," he repeated, but he didn't sound quite as cool as usual. "We can't go in there at night. There are all sorts of things in there. Werewolves, I heard." Neville clutched the sleeve of Harry's. Ooh, look! I think that must be the front of Hogwarts, right? And look, there's a little cat. I wonder who that is. Think about it for a second. Who is that cat waiting in the doorway of Hogwarts? Neville grabbed Harry's robe and made a choking noise. "That's your lookout, isn't it?" said Filch, his voice cracking with glee. Should have thought of them werewolves before you got in trouble, shouldn't you? Hagrid came striding towards them out of the dark, Fang at his heel. He was carrying a large crossbow, and a quiver of arrows hung over his shoulder. "'Bout time," he said. "I've been waiting for half an hour already. All right, Harry and Hermione." "Shouldn't be too friendly with them, Hagrid," said Filch coldly. "They're here to be punished, after all." "That's why you're late, is it?" said Hagrid, frowning at Filch. "Been lecturing 'em, eh? It's not your place to do that. You've done your bit. I'll take over from here." "I'll be back at dawn," said Filch, "for what's left of them," he added nastily, as he turned and started back towards the castle, his lamp bobbing away in the darkness. Malfoy now turned to Hagrid. "I'm not going in that forest," he said, and Harry was pleased to hear a note of panic in his voice. "Yeah, you are, if you want to stay at Hogwarts," said Hagrid fiercely. "Oh, I gotta say it fiercely. "Yeah, you are, if you want to stay at Hogwarts," said Hagrid fiercely. "You done wrong, and now you gotta pay for it." "But that's servant stuff. It's not for students to do. I thought we'd been writing lines or something. If my father knew what I was doing, he'd—" "Tell you that's how it is at Hogwarts," Hagrid growled. "Writing lines? What good's that to anyone? You do something useful, and you get out. And if you think your father'd rather you were expelled, then get off back into the castle and pack. Go on." Malfoy didn't move. He looked at Hagrid furiously, but then dropped his gaze. "Right then," said Hagrid. "Now listen carefully, 'cause it's dangerous, and what we're going to do tonight, and I don't want no one taking risks. Follow me over here for a moment." He led them to the very edge of the forest, holding his lamp up high, and pointed down a narrow, winding earth track that disappeared into the thick black trees. A light breeze lifted their hair as they looked into the forest. "Look there," said Hagrid. "See all that stuff shining on the ground? Silvery stuff. That's unicorn blood. There's a unicorn in there, been badly hurt by something. This is the second time this week. I found one dead last Wednesday. We're going to try and find the poor thing. We might have to put it out of its misery." "What if whatever hurt the unicorn finds us first?" said Malfoy, unable to keep the fear out of his voice. "There's nothing that lives in the forest that'll hurt you if you're with me or Fang," said Hagrid. "And keep to the path. Right now, we're going to split into 2 parties and follow the trail in different directions. There's blood all over the place." Ooh. And here's a picture of the forest. I'm going to hold it up a little, maybe get some shine out of it. And look, it looks like there's a unicorn. To my friends who love unicorns, you know who you are. It's very glowy and white. But here you can kind of see the forest looks very dark. There's a lot of trees. There's a lot of growth, right? You can see how crowded it is. And you can see a little bit of the moonlight in the background of this picture. That's not the reflection. But it's still very dark looking. I would keep that page up, but I have to turn the page to read. Sorry, guys. Can't freeze in a video. "Been staggering around since last night at least." "I want Fang," said Malfoy quickly, looking at Fang's long teeth. "All right, but I warn you, he's a coward," said Hagrid. "So me, Harry and Hermione'll go one way, and Draco and Neville and Fang will go another. Now, if any of us finds the unicorn, we'll send up green sparks, all right? Get out your wands and practice now. That's it. And if anyone gets in trouble, send up red sparks, and we'll all come to find you. So be careful. Let's go." The forest was black and silent. A little way into it, they reached a fork in the earth path, and Harry, Hermione, and Hagrid took the left path, while Malfoy, Neville, and Fang took the right. They walked in silence, their eyes on the ground. Every now and then a ray of moonlight through the branches above lit a spot of silvery blue blood on the fallen leaves. Harry saw that Hagrid looked very worried. "Could a werewolf be killing the unicorns?" Harry asked. "Not fast enough," said Hagrid. "It's not easy to catch a unicorn. They're powerful magic creatures. I never knew one to be hurt before." They walked past a mossy tree stump. Harry could hear running water. There must be a stream somewhere close by. There were spots of unicorn blood here and there along the winding path.
"You all right, Hermione?" Hagrid whispered. "Don't worry. It can't have gone far if it's this badly hurt, and then we'll be able to get behind that tree."
Hagrid seized Harry and Hermione and hoisted them off the path behind a towering oak. He pulled out an arrow and fitted it into his crossbow, raising it, ready to fire. The three of them listened. Something was slithering over dead leaves nearby. It sounded like a cloak trailing along the ground. Hagrid squinted up at the dark path, but after a few seconds the sound faded away.
"I knew it," he murmured. "There's something in here that shouldn't be."
"A werewolf," Harry suggested.
"That wasn't no werewolf, and it wasn't no unicorn either," said Hagrid grimly. "Right, follow me, but careful now."
They walked more slowly, ears straining for the faintest sound. Suddenly, in a clearing ahead, something definitely moved.
"Who's there?" Hagrid called out. "Show yourself, I'm armed."
And into the clearing came, was it a man or a horse? To the waist, a man with red hair and a beard. But below that was a horse's gleaming chestnut body with a long reddish tail. Harry and Hermione's jaws dropped.
"Oh, it's just you, Ronan," said Hagrid in relief. "How are you?"
He walked forward and shook the centaur's hand.
"Good evening to you, Hagrid,"
said Ronan. He had a deep, sorrowful voice.
"Were you going to shoot me?" "Can't be too careful, Ronan," said Hagrid, patting his crossbow. "There's something bad loose in this forest. This is Harry Potter and Hermione Granger, by the way, students up at the school. This is Ronan, you know. You two. He's a centaur."
"We noticed," said Hermione faintly.
"Good evening," said Ronan. "Students, are you? And do you learn much up at that school?"
A bit," said Hermione timidly.
"A bit? Well, that's something."
Ronan sighed. He flung his head back and stared at the sky.
"Mars is bright tonight."
"Yeah," said Hagrid, glancing up too.
"Listen, I'm glad we run into you, Ronan, 'cause there's a unicorn been hurt. You seen anything?"
Ronan didn't answer immediately. He stared unblinkingly upwards, then sighed again.
"Always the innocent are the first victims," he said. "So it has been for ages past. So it is now."
"Yeah," said Hagrid.
"But you seen anything, Rowan? Anything unusual?"
"Mars is bright tonight," Ronan repeated, while Hagrid watched him impatiently. "Unusually bright."
"Yeah, I mean anything unusual a bit nearer to home," said Hagrid. "So have you noticed anything strange?"
Yet again, Ronan took a while to answer. At last he said, "The forest hides many secrets." A movement in the trees behind Ronan made Hagrid raise his bow again, but it was only a second centaur, black-haired and bodied, and wilder looking than Ronan.
"Hello, Bane," said Hagrid. "All right." "Good evening, Hagrid. I hope you're well." "Well enough. Look, I've just been asking Ronan, have you seen anything odd in here lately? Only there's a unicorn been injured. Would any of you know what that's anything about?"
Bane walked over to stand next to Ronan. He looked skywards.
"Mars is bright tonight," he said simply.
"We've heard," said Hagrid grumpily.
"Well, if either of you do see anything, let me know, won't you? I'll be off then."
Harry and Hermione followed him out of the clearing, staring over their shoulders at Ronan and Bane until the trees blocked their view.
"Never," said Hagrid irritably, "try and get a straight answer out of a centaur. Ruddy stargazers, not interested in anything closer to the moon."
"How many of them are in here?" asked Hermione.
"Oh, a fair few. Keep to themselves mostly. But they're good enough about turning up if I ever want a word. They're deep-minded centaurs. They know things, they just don't let on much."
"Do you think that was a centaur we heard earlier?" said Harry.
"Did it sound like hooves to you? Nah, if you ask me. I think that's what's been killing the unicorns. Never heard anything like it before."
They walked through the dense, dark trees. Harry kept looking nervously over his shoulders. He had the nasty feeling they were being watched. He was very glad glad they had Hagrid and his crossbow with them. They had just passed a bend in the path when Hermione grabbed Hagrid's arm. "Hagrid, look! Red sparks! The others are in trouble!"
"You two wait here!" Hagrid shouted. "Stay on the path, I'll come back for you."
They heard him crashing away through the undergrowth and stood looking at each other very scared until they couldn't hear anything but the rustling of leaves around them. "You don't think they've been hurt, do you?" whispered Hermione.
"I don't care if Malfoy has, but if something's got Neville, it's our fault he's here in the first place."
The minutes dragged by. Their ears seemed sharper than usual. Harry's seemed to pick up every sigh of the wind, every cracking twig. What was going on? Where were the others? At last, a great crunching noise announced Hagrid's return. Malfoy, Neville, and Fang were with him. Hagrid was fuming. Malfoy, it seemed, had sneaked up behind Neville and grabbed him for a joke. Neville had panicked and sent up the smarks.
"We'll be lucky to catch anything now with the racket you two are making. Right, we're changing groups. Neville, you stay with me and Hermione. Harry, you go with Fang and this idiot. I'm sorry, Hagrid added in a whisper to Harry, but he'll have a harder time frightening you, and we've got to get this done."
So Harry set off into the heart of the forest with Malfoy and Fang. They walked for nearly half an hour, deeper and deeper into the forest, until the path became almost impossible to follow because the trees were so thick. Harry thought the blood seemed to be getting thicker. There were splashes on the roots of a tree, as though a poor creature had been thrashing around in pain close by. Harry could see a clearing ahead and through tangled branches of an ancient oak. And we're going to we're gonna finish this page, and then we're gonna stop on the next page.
"Look," he murmured, holding out his arm to stop Malfoy.
Something bright white was gleaming on the ground. They inched closer. It was a unicorn, all right, and it was dead. Harry had never seen anything so beautiful and sad. Its long, slender legs were stuck out at odd angles where it had fallen, and its mane was spread pearly white on dark leaves. And that's what we're going to stop. Ugh. So, what do you think is going to happen next? So they found the unicorn. What do you think is going to happen next?